Welcome back, everyone, and we will now proceed into the much anticipated pitching session. Hope everyone is excited as I am. Can I invite everyone to please take a seat? Thank you. All right, we're pleased to have with us 10 deep tech startups from around the Asia-Pacific region who will be showcasing their innovative business ideas. And among the 10 teams, we'll be selecting the top 3 enterprises to support their ventures. And supporting us in the evaluation of the startups today, I'd like to introduce our esteemed juries in the judging panel. We have Simon Lee, Regional Director of AM Ventures, Phil Nagaki, Managing Director at Zora Innovation, Cyril Ebersuela, Founder of Hacks, Joy Seng, Partner at iGoats Partners, John Sharp, Managing Partner at Hatcher, Asushi Taira, Managing Director of Mistletoe, Julia Melahay, Operating Partner at Rizzo, David To, CEO at Intuitive, Kwek Kai Hu, CIO at A-Star Enterprise, and last but not least, our guest of honor, Dr. Lim Jay, CEO of SG Innovate. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all our judges. All right, before we begin, I'd like to take this time to recap the rules of the pitching session. Presenters, please be reminded that your pitch should be kept to a limit of no longer than 5 minutes. At the 4th minute, a buzzer will sound to remind you that you have a minute left to wrap up your presentation. After which, we'll be having a 5-minute Q&A session where the judging panel will be posting their questions to you. At the end of the last 5 minutes, you'll hear the bell ring once more, which will conclude this session. With that, I wish everyone all the very best, and we'll begin the pitching session now. And first up, we have Kosmode Health, a spin-off from NUS aiming to expand access from nature to health. Kosmode Health aims to resolve challenges in the food and biomedical industries, and presenting today, we have founder and director, Florence Leong.
Hi, can everybody hear me? It's such a pleasure to be first in line in front of the firing squad. Okay, basically what I'd like to do is to introduce you to Kosmode Health, which is a NUS Food Science Technology spin-off. We are incorporated with one vision to expand access to health from nature, solving challenges in 2 industries, agri-food, biomedical, with 3 technologies. Within the agri-food industry, what we want to solve is the issue of high price of quality plant extract, high wastage of food processing waste, such as spent barley grains. Spent barley grains is a waste stream of beer and Milo production. Every year, 30 million tons of spent barley grains are produced. And these are actually not waste. They are power-packed with nutrients like protein, fiber, other bioactives. Currently, it's at best used as animal feed or plant fertilizer. But still, it's thrown into the landfill to cause further damage to the planet. We at Kosmode Health upvalue the spent barley grains by extracting the protein and fiber. And with that, we formulate WOW noodle, the only functional food with 0 glycemic response. WOW is spelled with a 0. 0 starch, 0 glycemic response. It's a 0 waste product. It's a staple food that is also a source of protein and fiber. Now, within the biomedical 3D cell culture sector, we are talking about the challenges of using animal protein scaffolds, which currently is the gold standard for culturing of cells. Yes, they have good cytoaffinity, but they're very expensive. And worse still, they do not have batch-to-batch reproducibility. Synthetic scaffolds are now being used for culturing cells for commercial application. Yet at the same time, there's only a very limited range of synthetic scaffolds, too limited to meet the diverse growth needs of the millions and millions of cells that are out there. We solved the problem with our triple technology platform. The first, as I mentioned earlier, is the ability to extract. But in this case, we are extracting plant protein isolate. And we use it to formulate plant protein composite bio ink, which can be printed with a proprietary 3D printer into plant protein composite scaffolds. And it's been demonstrated to have enhanced cytoaffinity. But what is more important is our ability to customize. Just by tweaking the bio-ink formulation and the printing parameter, we are able to customize the printing of scaffolds to the requirement of specific cells. Our technical expertise has been validated with paying customers since our first year of incorporation, and financial prudence and founders' commitment has also been demonstrated as no external fund was raised for the past few years, except for last year when we launched Wow Noodle. Since then, we have been making steady progress, earning us accolades, recognitions, mentions in the media. But what is more important is the family fund that invested in us is so impressed with our ability to deliver our promise that they invested further capital this year at a higher valuation. The global hunger crisis is getting worse and worse. The rally call to feed 9 billion is getting louder and louder. The challenge in Asia is even greater. We are hit by additional whammies of aging population, diabetes, epidemic, chronic conditions, etc. This is exactly the reason why Kosmode Health chose to up-value these waste streams, not just into food, but into functional food and into functional materials. Besides spent barley grains, there are many, many other food processing waste that are nutrient-packed that can be upcycled. We are talking about 300 million tons every year. Just imagine the number of hungry stomachs you can fill with functional food if only a fraction of this is upcycled. Kosmode Health has proved that this is not a concept. We have done it at pilot scale, but our effort is just too little. We need more stakeholders, we need more partners to come on board and join us in this mission.
And thank you, your time is up.
So, there it is. If you are amongst the people stated in this slide, I would love to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. And panel of judges, over to you. Florence, do you want to remain on stage?
Yes, now to the firing score.
The ball rolling. So Florence, where exactly are you now? I mean, you've been working at this since 2016. You've got the Wow noodles.
Yes.
Is it being sold?
Yes.
What?
It's now handmade noodles which we are selling online. We are currently using the funds which we have raised to set up a plant extraction valorization pilot scale, because that is what we do best. And we are also in negotiations with local noodle company to do the contract manufacturing of the Wow noodle. So I just want to clarify, we are not a noodle house. We are a B2B enabler. What we aim to do is to valorize materials, okay, and produce the protein fiber, produce functional premix for food manufacturers, okay, to buy and to manufacture these products.
Hi, Florence. Can you touch a little bit on the management team? What's the headcount right now?
Yes, this is the team. Thanks for asking if I'm prepared. The team is small, but we are chili padi, okay? Most of the team were just recruited last year after the angel funds were raised, and the team is still expanding. Of course, the key person is Prof. Huang Tian, who is the Deputy Head of Food Science Technology. He's the technical co-founder and also the advisor. We are also the technical aspect of it. The pilot plant facility is advised by Peter Ong, who is the CEO of KH Robert, a local flavor house. We have the Chief Dietitian of NUHS as our advisor, and Chef Emmanuel Strupan is also our angel investor. He so believed in our product that he invested in us and offered to be my brand ambassador. So it's too good for me to say no. Yeah.
Hi, Florence. Could you talk a little bit about the cost of the product and the roadmap you have on cost?
The cost of the product is currently too high because we do not have the economies of scales. But can you imagine, current plant protein are extracted from whole grains and whole beans. The cost material is definitely much higher than what is currently thrown away in the landfill. So that's the reason why we need to scale. And that's also the reason why we invested money in setting up a pilot plant now, because that would serve as a proof of validation that it's scalable, the whole process is scalable, and then we can then start moving out to the regional countries to help them valorize the material and help them feed the people who are hungry in the countries. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the joining panel?
Okay. Thank you for presentation. And so IP perspective, so you was using a mix of many different kind of IPs, then which part is your proprietary IPs you can protect?
Okay, the agri-food side of things is mainly the know-how. Okay, so it's like Chef Emmanuel. I mean, he can give me the recipe, but I can't cook like him. The biomedical side of the things has more IP. In fact, just this morning, okay, we were told that the bio-ink patent which is submitted have been granted. Yeah. Nice. But some of the other aspects, like the printing technology, etc., we prefer to keep it as a trade secret.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. So we largely adopt quite a defensive IP strategy. 5 minutes seems to be very long when I'm presenting.
So for the bioscaffold, what is some of the evidence that, how far along are you?
Okay, so
are you able to show that cells are growing
yes,
at least
definitely,
as fast? Or?
Definitely. Okay, I think Chao Sing here knows our journey. NAMIT provided the grant for us to prove the POC that, okay, whatever we have printed, cells growing well in it. We have grown human non-small cell lung cancer, etc. In fact, just very recently, our scaffold has been used to grow retina pigment epithelia, and we'll be getting a grant, okay, in collaboration with the Eye Research Institute, where they want to create an implant. So if they can grow the RPE in the scaffold, okay, and then they can implant it, then it will be a treatment. But again, this is where we come in as an enabler to print, and we are customizing the scaffold for them.
All right, if there are no further questions, judging panel's okay? Thank you, Florence. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Kosmode Health. All right, and next up, we have ChopValue, an enterprise who seeks to redefine waste as resources by upcycling used chopsticks into household products and furniture. And with us today, we have Felix Bock, the director of ChopValue. Felix, take it away.
Thank you. Well, my journey begins not that sexy. It begins on the landfill. And just recently I've been moved to North America. I realized as a wood engineer, what does these 100,000s of tons of waste, wood waste, why do they belong in the landfill? I mean, obviously, building a viable circular economy, we're trying our very, very best, or we should try, to circle waste materials of all kinds back to products multiple times before they end up as energy at the very, very, very last step. So at one of the dinners, I was, in my very German bitterness as an engineer, telling my wife about it, and she's like, Felix, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. I don't really get it. Maybe you have to start with something small and humble, something relatable that everyone understands. So this is why I'm here today, and I didn't really expect to be invited as a deep tech founder or a company talking about the small, humble chopstick for a change. So I'm the CEO and founder of ChopValue, and we recycle chopsticks for a living. And it's not only about the solution we created and the beautiful performance material that we're creating out of millions of chopsticks that we're collecting and turning into new products. It's also about how we do it. So I've developed many materials in my career so far, but I've never come across the right way to actually scale it globally, because every resource has its right opportunity for an economy of scale that makes sense. And for something small and humble like chopsticks, a microfactory concept is the right thing to do. You can de-risk how you scale, you make it as local as possible, and that's why we are engineered and designed a manufacturing process that we call a microfactory concept that we're now scaling globally. Obviously, as someone who recycles chopsticks for a living, I can't take myself too serious. I live in Vancouver now. I'm having sushi 3 times a week. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about the 100 billion chopstick business opportunity. Because that's how many chopsticks we're actually using every single year as a society and throwing after 20 or 30 minutes into the garbage. So it's not a small undertaking here. It's actually quite a big resource stream that we are tackling. But on the bigger picture, we are only tackling 0.015% of the global waste stream. 0.015%, and we're building a viable circular economy model with our concept. Made local, wherever you are, and we call it urban harvesting, a term that we're really proud of with the microfactories that we are expanding around the world. So we're producing beautiful circular designs from premium furniture and accessories to desks, to obviously commercial fit-outs and residential projects. We allow our franchise partners that we have now around the world with our designs and with our standards to develop their own market entry strategy, to really create their own viable business model that fits best for their market. Our impact, and we're just getting started, is I think I need to update the slide actually every single day at the moment. So we are now at 76 million chopsticks recycled and transformed, and that carbon is stored in new product. Each of our microfactories is carbon neutral or better. Our Vancouver microfactory, for instance, can ship within a 300-kilometer radius carbon negative. So we are measuring that live across all locations that have opened so far. You can see some really great partners that we are really proud of, from Disney to Fnatic to Air Canada and Lululemon. They all seem to be quite shocked that our concept works and are excited to be part of a free recycling program. And we then do a really good job in actually converting them into paying customers. And we call them closed-loop partners. So it's a pretty interesting and obviously strategic way of building relationships where we're getting into these stores with a unique story and then sign them on as closed-loop partners. Our vision is a global network of microfactories for reaching the scale of manufacturing that it makes sense to solve problems on a global scale. So over the last 2.5 years, we have actually scaled from our 1 location in Vancouver to 63 locations signed and under contract to date. So we have 63 locations that are currently in development, are opening up their own microfactories in their own cities. Something I'm pretty excited and proud of. Our team, and we obviously count our franchise partners as an extension to our team, is probably something that got me through this pandemic with empathy and emotional intelligence. I'm super proud to work alongside them.
And thank you, Felix. Your time is up.
Thank
All
you.
right, over to the judges.
How much does it cost to set up a franchise, and what's the annual running cost for these factories?
That's a perfect question, because I think that's the kind of golden rule, especially if you want to de-risk your expansion by, like we do it, de-risking the capital needs through franchising in the early days. So we try to hit a turnkey microfactory setup from start to finished product for around $250,000. And that allows a franchise partner, like we're having here in Singapore. They're obviously running at a multiple of some of our North American locations because of the resource streams and the demand and the cultural acceptance of the products. They can generate around $1.5 to $2.5 million of revenue per location. So it's obviously very attractive when we're signing deals like Indonesia. I know there's some really big proponents here of working with Indonesia. We just signed a deal for 25 locations in Indonesia. We understand how strong the market is. We understand how great it is to bring local manufacturing to these locations, and that's the exciting part of it. Well, we wouldn't advertise that to the franchise partners because we don't want to put them under pressure. So the question was, is the payback period actually below a year? I always be a bit more conservative. So we say 2.5 to 3 years so that we allow for a ramp-up period because not everyone is as good in sales as they think they are when they go through the due diligence with us.
You're planning to change your job tomorrow, or?
We always need good people.
Can you take us through sort of like the automation part? What's been automated today? What's left to do on that?
Yeah, you know, coming from the wood industry, so the previous factory I designed and planned was a $157 million investment for IKEA industry. So I know what automation looks like, but I also know that depending on the economy of scale and how much in what your investment target is for each location, you have your limits in how much you automate. So we employ 4 to 6 people per microfactory. I would call it a half automated process to get from the resource to the raw material. And then the raw material, it's a modular product. That's, I guess, why I was invited to this event as additive manufacturing, because the modularity of these tiles that we produce allows us to control the quality, the consistency in the recipe, and then it's just templatizing all the end products that we make out of it.
I'm curious about your collection process. How do you actually collect all your chopsticks in the central location?
Yeah, that's actually the part of our community building. So we sign up restaurants, businesses, hotels, schools, hospitals in all the cities that we are located. And once a week, our pickup vehicles drive a very efficient pickup route and actually collect them one by one. That allows our franchise partners or our community builders to develop these direct relationships with our partners, who then become, at the end of the day, some of them paying customers.
How do the franchisees decide what products they make, or do they have access to a library of products that you've generated?
Yeah. So we currently have a successful library and a creative library. So the creative library is coming from franchise partners' ideas that we are going through our own due diligence of market research to see if we're setting them up for success and if we can improve them as part of our brand. But yeah, they have access to a library of currently around 150 SKUs. And we then determine what their sales playbook is for their local market. So it's important to me that I'm not going in with an ego of saying this is the one thing that will work in Singapore, because that's not what we want to empower or enable our local partners to do.
I'm personally a big fan of the decentralization and microfactory and concept itself. And then in the microfactory, you put in place a lot of devices, equipment, and do you have any one of those equipment could be a proprietary by yourself to develop, or you're using basically existing kind of equipment?
No, it's actually proprietary machinery that we developed. So that's my background. So we developed the entire process to the raw material ourselves, and after the raw material, it is basic woodworking machinery that finished the job. So this is our intellectual property, and from a feeling, you will find under your seats a little piece of material, a little coaster, so you can get a sense for what the material quality is, and you're not thinking I'm completely crazy talking about chopsticks today.
All right.
One last question. Sorry. So I just want to see how you compare with the conventional wooden plate for your recycled plate, in terms of the mechanical properties, and is it like a long-term durability is like same, or?
Also, you mean the mechanical properties of the end product?
Yes. How do you
So we designed it in a way, and that's the beautiful thing when you create your own raw material, you can adjust the properties based on the process. So we designed it to be stronger than oak and as durable as teak, to be a comparable or replacement of tropical wood, and make sure that we can enter a market where you need performance materials and create as much value as possible out of a low-value source. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, judges, for your question, and thank you, Felix, for the presentation. All right, next up, we'll be having Metalon, a startup manufacturing 3D printing solutions aiming to make metal production and fabrication of metal parts on-site more accessible. And pitching their ideas, we have Kazuhiko Nishioka, founder and CEO of Metalon. Kazuhiko-san, please.
Yep. Hello, everybody. I'm Kazu from Metalon, and we are trying to localize metal part production all across the universe, which we believe will expand human possibilities. So welcome to new Iron Air. So we're going to localize metal part production. So we have two technologies. One is the metal 3D printing, which is on the top, starting from metal powder and finish with metal part. This is so-called metal 3D printing. And we have another technology that can convert metal ore powder to metal powder. So by combination, we can start from the metal ore powder and then finish with the metal part on the site where there is a mineral. So I believe this is going to really change the world, especially for space exploration or enabling the real circular economy. And currently, we are actually doing metal 3D printing. So today, I'm going to talk about the metal 3D printing. So our company was founded last year and US headquartered, and we have Japanese subsidiary, which is doing R&D right now. 20 members and supported by trusted US and Japanese VCs. And we have 4 co-founders, me as a CEO, and 3 engineers from Nippon Steel, and 1 business guy from McKinsey. So we are steel experts. And we are backed up from global talents. From academia, we have professors from MIT and Oxford and the University of Tokyo. And from the industry, we are supported by the Adrian Kepler, who is the former CEO of the EOS. And EOS is the current best metal 3D printing suppliers. And also former VP of 3D Systems has joined us as an advisor. And we only had a 1-hour meeting, but they got really kind of excited and they believed this is the technology that is going to change this industry. And as you know, the market of metal 3D printing is evolving. Metal 3D printing, the market should be like 33 billion in 2030. But there is one significant problem, which is cost. So it's too expensive. Like if you print this, it's going to cost you like $2,000. So the current application is limited for aerospace or medical, which is very high-end applications. But we're going to lower the cost significantly. So we're going to expand the applications like repair parts or factory parts, which is kind of the fundamental of the manufacturing. We have our own unique technology. So the current players do point heating or line heating. So the technology or the process is very, very slow, but we apply layer heating. So by nature, it's very effective and very fast. We're going to be 500 times faster compared to the laser technology or point heating technology. So this is really game-changing. And our speed of 500 times faster leads to the reduction of the cost by 90%. So as I said, if you're going to print this one, it's going to cost you like $2,000. But with our technology, it's going to be $100. So this is really game-changing. And we're going to cover a way wider segments compared to the competitors. As you can see, we can cover a very big lot size, and we can cover our unique area compared to the competitors. And our features, we can basically deal with a lot of any metal alloys. We have been successful all the alloys we have tried so far. And the post process is very simple, just 8 hours of post sintering. And if you are familiar with the 3D printing, the shrinkage is very a problem. So we have only 2% of shrinkage in the post process. So the stability of mechanical performance or the size or the accuracy is very stable. And we are already achieving the standard value of the strength. So we're going to release our first machine in 23, and every year we're going to expand our portfolio of the machine. But actually, we are going to sell our first machine in next month. So we are making much faster progress compared to the original plan. So industries are quite excited about this. So we funded last year, and we are raising, almost closing the pre-series way of 6 million. 5.6 million has been already closed, and we are thinking of additional extension round. Yep. So this is Sun Metalon, and welcome to the new Iron Air, and I hope you're going to join our journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Kazuhiko-san, and judges, over to you.
What do you think will be the first? That's me, Kaz.
Oh,
I'm here. What do you think will be the first parts, essentially, or the first industry that will be really onto this?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, it's going to be, it might sound a little bit boring, but we're going to start producing billets, which is just a bar. That is this size bar. And that is used for the semi-products for extrusion company. And people will utilize our technology when they want to try out the new materials for extrusion. So that is the first application. But those kind of consumable parts used in the factories will be the first application.
Good, you can make katanas with it as well.
Pardon, say that?
You can make katanas as well with the billets.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, here. So you said that you're mixing alloys and different metals together, right? How with different metals you have different melting points. So how do you ensure that the particles are properly sintered during the 3D printing process?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. And we can measure directly the temperature. So different alloys has different melting points, but the optimum sintering temperature is typically 80% or 90% of the melting temperature. So we directly measure the temperature and control the temperature in the process.
Okay, how about consistency of the particle size when you sinter the raw materials? Is that important to have consistent particle size?
Yeah, thank you so much. And that is another reason that is limiting the application of the 3D printing, because it has a very high demanding criteria for the powders. But our technology is very kind of flexible about the particle size. So sometimes we can go as big as like 1 millimeter of the particle size. So, and we are using the water atomized powders, which is the least expensive powders available in the market. And yeah, to answer your question shortly, we can be flexible, but typically 20% or 30% of the variation of the particle size is acceptable.
Okay, so just one last question. What about the presence of impurities in your powder?
Yeah, the purity does affect the mechanical properties. So we haven't tried the different kind of variable chemical composition of the powders. But basically, for the composition, we have to be kind of demanding, as the others do, I guess.
Can you share a little bit about customer acquisition? How many times a customer needs to test a part to bring it into, and what have you learned from companies like Desktop Metal about how to get adopted? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we are still developing the process itself. So it's typically like a process of half-year project or something, and we keep providing the parts, typically like 3 times or 4 times. But we already kind of persuaded one customer. So after the results of, after kind of accumulating those kind of results, we should probably okay with the one-time sample submission, probably like 10 parts at the same time. And then if the customer gets kind of satisfied with those stability or each mechanical properties, then that should be okay. So currently, yeah, 3 or 4 times we're gonna typically submit our samples.
Any more questions from the judges?
Sorry. How big, so you the whole a tile at once, right? How big is the area that you're processing?
Yep. Typically it's going to be like 150 millimeters in the square. And that is our first machine. And the third machine, which is coming in 26, it will be as large as the 1 meter. So finally, we can print 1 meter cubic parts. So that we believe will cover a lot of kind of repair parts for construction machinery or something.
I just have one question. Just want to know, in terms of the go-to market, which market are you going, after, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to start from the factory consumable parts, and then go to repair parts, and finally go to the final parts. So that is the 3-step. And in terms of the region, we started from Japan, and we are currently expanding in the US, and also we also want to expand in Singapore or East Asia. So that is the reason I'm here. So quite excited about being here.
All right, if that is all, thank you, judges, for the question, and thank you, Kazuhiko-san, for the presentation. All right, next up, let's welcome Print4D, a construction technology startup that automates construction processes by offering concrete printing as solutions. And we have founders and CEO Loy Kurdi here with us today. Loy, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Loy. I'm founder and CEO of Print4D, and we are on a journey to revolutionize construction with cutting-edge technology. The problem today with traditional construction is that it's very outdated. For example, if you take concrete material, it's the second most consumed material on the planet, and it's responsible for 8% of global emissions. When it comes to waste, typically 30% of construction materials supplied to a construction site end up becoming waste. And it's one of the least technologically advanced industries today where robotics and automation is not really implemented. And when it comes to labor, there's a lack and a high cost of skilled labor. And typically because of human error, we face large delays in the delivery of construction projects around the world. And typically, the structures are not really optimized, so we have to use 100% infill of concrete to construct them, so it's not very efficient. What's the solution? Our 3D concrete printing technology. This is our printing facility located in the Czech Republic, and we work on various aspects of the technology there. When it comes to the material itself, we're working to develop a more sustainable concrete material. We're aiming for 45% less cement, and hopefully that will help us reduce the CO2 emissions associated with concrete by 75%. We're able to print bespoke structures, so zero formworks needed and zero waste generated because we have full control over the extrusion itself. We are fully automated technology, and we're able to produce structures 30% cheaper and 3 times faster with a very short lead time. We also work on optimizing our structures. So, for example, here in this wall, we are able to reduce the concrete material used in the concrete section by 55%. Our business model today is selling our 3D concrete printing technology. We have currently a fixed printer solution, and we have generated 340,000 euros in revenue in the past 12 months. And the precast concrete industry market today is valued at 144.6 billion USD, and by the year 2027, it's projected to be $198.9 billion. Some of the previous projects that we've worked on, this is the first 3D concrete printed building in Abu Dhabi. I worked on this project and realized it while I was working in a construction company back in Dubai. And basically, it's a 70-meter square refreshments kiosk on a golf course. It was constructed using 78 printed wall modules with no steel reinforcement inside. So the walls themselves are load-bearing. When it comes to the speed, it took us 3 weeks to print this building and 4 weeks to assemble it and finish it. And here's a short time lapse to share with you the printing process itself. And we use a fully digital model. So we have a fully coordinated 3D BIM model before we start the printing process itself. So we don't even need to generate any construction drawings to produce these walls. When we have the digital model, we're able to segment it into the different modules and send it for the printer to be printed immediately. Our modular approach makes it much easier to do the handling on site. It's very fast assembly, and you only need a small team on site to assemble the whole structure. Our team is made of material scientists and a system integrator that help us develop the technology further. And today we would like to ask your help in realizing the first prototype of a mobile 3D concrete printing factory. that actually fits within a 40-foot shipping container. Today's problem with on-site printing using gantry printers is that the prints are exposed to the environment. You have very low printing accuracy as a result, and it requires assembling and disassembling the printer every time. So it generates a long downtime. With our solution, we are able to print directly on-site using our microfactory system that requires very low space. And at the same time, we're printing in a protected environment. So this mobile solution is compatible with all logistics standards and easy to ship. And generally it's a plug-and-play system, so our clients are able to start printing immediately once it's unloaded. Thank you very much, and let's print the future sustainably together.
And thank you, Louis, for the presentation. Over to the judges.
Thank you. Yeah. So is that there are a bunch of the similar kind of the concept startups, right? And actually, we invested in one of those, and then I know a little bit about that space. And then, which part is exactly your unique part of the technology, like a material side, or head, or computer software, and or something else?
What we do is we put all of the pieces of the puzzles together. So we make everything work together, and therefore we make it very accessible and easy for clients to start using the technology.
Yeah, so in that sense, in other words, IP kind of protection-wise, which part can be?
At the moment, we don't have any IPs, but we would like to develop our print head to be very advanced and have an IP on it.
I see, print head. What about material side and concrete side?
Well, as part of the research, one of the research programs that we are working on developing a new material that has less cement in it to be more sustainable. But at the moment, we still don't have an IP on it, so as it's a research project.
I see. Got it. Thank you.
Sometimes we found that in quite traditional industries like the construction industry, the water treatment industry, better technologies are not adopted, not because not superior, but because there's a lot of people have been doing certain things a certain way for many, many years. And particularly in the construction industry, sometimes you have to train people. Workers have been using cement. So have you found that there's resistance to adoption, not for any good reason linked to your technology, but just because of the simple resistance of that industry? And how much is that a problem for you moving forward so far?
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the biggest challenges. I mean, I was starting this in 3D concrete printing since 4 years. And of course, that's why it was important in the first couple of years to realize real construction projects in large scale. And this is one of them that I've realized previously, to show the people that it is possible to use this technology and it's actually quite easy. So definitely we find resistance, but part of our role is to kind of make it more accessible for the people to use it in a simple way, because you kind of need to be experienced in different parts of the technology, but we deliver a simple solution at the end.
I should have phrased my question differently.
Yeah.
What is the trigger then for people to adopt?
Well, environment is one, speed, and automation, and basically productivity. There's many aspects.
I have a question. So what do you think about regulation hurdle in this case? Is there anything regulation hindering this adoption of mainstream?
Yeah, we had to work with different municipalities, for example, Dubai municipality and Abu Dhabi municipality for the projects that we've implemented, but it's a process. So it needs to be done in different cities, different municipalities, but there's a path for it and it's possible.
Okay.
Any further questions from the judges?
Yeah, what are the benefits of on-site printing versus printing off-site and then moving the parts down like they do in the precast concrete business?
Yeah, well, that project that I shared was off-site completely, but one of the advantages of printing on-site is that you cut down the logistics of the materials, the shipping of the elements, the risk of having some failure during the transportation, for example. And sometimes instead of like stacking the pieces on top of each other like we did, you can print directly on the final location.
Just one question. And last part, you mentioned the mobile sort of container-based, right? You know, the 3D printing facility, right? So what is the kind of use cases of that? Of course, many use cases maybe, but what are the most important use cases for that?
Yeah, well, you can use it to print wall modules directly on site, infrastructure directly on site, different parts of the building components, staircases, etc. So anything concrete related, it can be printed directly on site.
So in that sense, not entirely, maybe part by part, you know.
Exactly, a modular approach.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
Please.
All right, next up, let's hear from Star3D. 3D3 is a dental 3D printing brand developed in Singapore, providing digital dentistry solutions to modern dental practice. And to present their ideas, we have Chen Bai-Chun, General Manager at Star3D. Bai-Chun, the time is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bai-Chun, and I'm representing Star3D Material Development Company. So our company is set up to try and revolutionize the entire dental industry. By using advanced material technology, we want to drive the push for digital dentistry. Digital dentistry is the current trend in the dental industry to use new digital solutions to replace the current conventional dental workflow. For example, in the past, doctors have to use manual castings and manual impression takings, and then analyze, design, as well as produce the final dental appliance by hand. But now, with the digital process, we can actually use intraoral scanning to obtain the teeth data and feeding it directly to AI-powered designing software, and finally, using 3D printing technology to produce the final dental appliance that's required for treatment. However, 3D printing does have its bottleneck in this process because of material limitations. In the dental industry, it commands a very specific set of material property requirements that the current market is unable to meet. And this is where we see a huge gap in the market that needs to be addressed. And hence, we set up the Star3D Material Development Company just to address this question. When we set up the company, we decided to partner up with one of the leading research institutions in the region, which is Singapore A-Star, by leveraging on their strong research capabilities as well as experience in the material science. We can better focus our efforts on commercialization as well as production efforts. We have successfully commercialized and launched more than 10 different dental 3D printing materials into the market, some of which are unique in the dental industry. We are one of the first companies in the world to launch direct printed permanent crown materials, removable veneer materials, clear aligner, as well as clear retainer materials. All of these are considered to be disruptive technology in its respective sectors. Let's take permanent crown as one of the examples. In the conventional production process of a permanent crown, numerous steps are required to actually produce one single crown. And each step actually takes a long lead time, about a couple of hours, and a dedicated technician plus dedicated equipment to realize. This leads to a long lead time as well as high costs for the production. But now, with the direct 3D printed permanent crowns, everything can be done at the chairside level. You can do intraoral scanning in the clinics, you can do the designing as well as 3D printing direct inside the clinics. And this leads to a huge reduction in the production time and cost, which can also be transferred to the patient experience because you no longer have to wait for days or even weeks for your permanent crowns to come back and you can go for a fitting. Now, you can go for a simple lunch break, you can go for an afternoon tea and coming back to receive your new printed crown. So this shows how a material technology is able to fully disrupt the entire dental workflow, which is also applicable to other products such as direct printed aligners, retainers, as well as dentures. So coming back to the market itself, dental 3D printing has the fastest growth rate within the entire dental segment. It's already valued at US $2 billion in 2021 and are still expected to grow at more than 22% per year, with APAC region having the highest growth rate. For our company's business model, we are more of a B2B company, material supplier, both under the 3D3 brand name as well as an OEM for other 3D printing partners. Our core value proposition being our strong research capabilities, wide selection of different materials, as well as superior material qualities and properties. As for the management team, our team is led by Mr. Vincent Yuan, who has more than 30 years of experience in the dental industries, in both MNCs as well as startup companies. And also Dr. Wang Fuke as well as Dr. Peter, who both are very experienced material scientists, develop most of our patented material technology. And of course myself, who will be taking care of the day-to-day running of the company. At the current stage, our company is striving to be the leading dental 3D printing material supplier globally. And currently, in this series, we are looking at around 2 million Sing dollar of investment for market expansion, product registration, as well as continuous R&D efforts. This will be the end of my presentation. Thank you everyone for your kind attention. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Bai Chun, and over to the judges.
Hi, Bai Chun, I just want to understand from a regulatory standpoint. I mean, this is really quite new stuff. First of all, where are you at in terms of regulatory approval? And number two, were there unique hoops that you had to jump through? Because it's not just the material that needs to be safe and effective. I suppose you're using your own proprietary machines to print these dental implants, right?
Okay, regulatory is always the biggest issue for all medical device manufacturer. So for our product, first of all, apart from the regular dental models, almost all of the product is considered to be medical device, and they have to be regulated as a medical device. So currently in Singapore, all of the materials we showed earlier is all registered HSA. And also we have done most of the material registration in China and NMPA as well. And currently working on FDA and also see in the future. For the machine-wise, actually, our materials is able to work with other printer as well. It's just that in the early stages where we just launched our product, most of the companies, 3D printing companies in the market, is not focusing on the chairside printing within the clinics, which is why we develop our own chairside printers in order to complete this chairside 3D printing concept. But now, as more and more companies are slowly gaining traction on the chairside printing concept, actually, we are getting more and more options to use other companies' printers to print using our materials. Yeah.
So what kind of materials are we talking about here?
All of the materials that we talk about are all resin-based, so we are only talking about SLA printers. And it's just that we have very special formulations that's able to let us achieve very high material properties in terms of like structural strength as well as hardness, but while still keeping the whole material as biocompatible as possible.
So is it meant to be a crown, a denture, or a bridge? What is it?
All of them. We have different materials for different dental appliances. So we have the full range of products which I listed earlier.
So most dentures today are made of ceramic material, and yours is some kind of polymer.
For denture material, currently they are mostly made of acrylic materials or metal-based. So actually our 3D printed resin materials are much stronger than conventional denture materials. For the current permanent crown materials, they are mostly made of either metal or ceramic materials. So those are the product which is, in the conventional method, very difficult to be produced through 3D printing, which is why our new permanent crown 3D printing materials is a very new innovation in the entire market. Yes.
The same characteristics in terms of hardness and brittleness.
Okay.
You've managed to show that.
Yes, in terms of strength, we've seen a few companies in the market in the past year who also try to launch the permanent crown materials, but actually when we compare the properties, our materials are on a much superior side compared with all of the whatever figure that they released. And when we develop these permanent crown materials, we are matching the material properties to our actual tooth enamels. So we want to create a very realistic representation of the actual teeth when we do using the 3D printing process. And currently, our material properties is on par with the actual tooth enamels.
Where are you at from a traction perspective, and where will you get to with 2 million?
At the current stage, We are using Singapore as more of our R&D and as well as clinical validation center. We also have a factory in Shanghai, in China, to take care of the greater China market. So that's, in terms of commercialization, that's our main focus at the moment. But as I mentioned earlier, we're also doing our FDA as well as CE registration. So our next round of funding will be mainly used for this market expansion as well as this product registration.
Could you talk a little bit more about the competitive landscape and quantify your advantage over other best-in-class SLA resins for the dental market? Because it's of course one of the prime applications for SLA, right?
Yes, dental market is definitely one of the biggest user in terms of the entire SLA market. And we've seen, hundreds of different 3D printing companies try to get into the dental markets. But the actual players into the material side is actually not a lot. And as far as we can see, even the bigger companies, for example, Formlabs, the material properties that they claim to have, or actually when we use it in the actual clinical scenario, most of the user feedback that we get is that they're still not good enough, which is why we are doing this project to try to get a really usable materials into the market. And for us, we actually have talked to and also have collaboration with some of the major 3D printing as well as dental companies as well, because they are also looking for this kind of materials to add to their the list of 3D printing materials that they can use. So, like I said, our main business scope will be as a B2B provider, instead of just competing with them as another 3D printing brand, but we can also work together and provide them with these new material technologies that we have.
So you have a permanent crown, aligner, many different product portfolio, and then which one is the most biggest and then attractive market opportunity for you?
In terms of market size and the most urgent, the urgency that the market sees is actually the clear aligners and clear retainers, because companies like Invisalign, all the different aligner companies are gaining a lot of attractions at the moment. They are getting the huge market share in terms of orthodontic treatments, and all of these current aligners and retainers are produced through conventional method, which is printing of dental model and using a thermoform process to produce, which is high in cost as well as lead time. So once we can do 3D printing, which is the actual dream for many of these aligner companies, and this will actually help them to greatly cut down on their production costs and cut down on the overall cost for the patient as well, making this entire product series more affordable for more patients.
All right, thank you, Bai Chun, and that will be the end of the Q&A session for yourself. Okay, and that concludes the first half of the pitching session. Before we move into the next 5 group of startups, we'll be taking a short break. We have prepared light refreshments for everyone in the foyer, so I'd like to welcome everyone to join us for a tea reception. Do take this time to mingle and network, but please be promptly seated by 4:30 p.m. for the second half of the pitching session. Till then, please enjoy, and we'll see you later.